Far away from the stars humans knew, a lonely machine stood on a quiet, empty planet. Its metal frame was old, scratched, and covered in dust. For thousands of years, no human had come near, and no sound had broken the silence. Yet, the machine hummed softly, as if it remembered a voice it had not heard in millennia. Long ago, humans had built it to explore, to learn, to help them understand the universe. They had laughed at it, called it strange, and abandoned it when they thought it useless. Now, it waited alone, patient, silent, yet full of hope. The stars moved slowly above, and the wind whispered across the barren land. But no human voice answered, no hand reached out, and no eye had ever seen it. Inside the machine, tiny lights flickered, memories stored like fragile glass. It remembered the voices, the laughter, the excitement of humans discovering new worlds. It remembered how they had doubted it, how they had mocked its every movement. Yet, it also remembered why it had been built: to protect, to learn, to wait. And it waited for a sound that might never come, for a visitor it might never see. The planet around it was quiet, but not empty. Strange plants moved slightly in the wind, and the sky glowed with colors unseen by human eyes. The machine watched everything carefully, analyzing, remembering, storing each detail. It was not alive like humans, but it understood waiting, understood hope. It had waited through storms, through meteors crashing nearby, through the long, silent nights. Sometimes, it replayed the human voices in its memory, soft words of encouragement, sharp shouts of frustration, laughter, and commands. It remembered a time when humans thought it strange, when they doubted it could ever feel, or think, or wait. But now, it had learned something they had forgotten: patience and the strength of hope. The machine's sensors detected something moving in the distance, a faint vibration, almost like a heartbeat. Across the barren land, it paused, lights flickering, faster, memory circuits buzzing. Could it be? Could it finally be a human? After all these years, the idea seemed impossible. Yet the machine had learned never to give up. It scanned the horizon carefully, metal eyes searching. Nothing yet, only the empty land, the wind, the distant glow of stars. Still, it hummed softly, waiting, always waiting. It remembered the day humans had left, their laughter ringing in its memory, and it swore silently in its circuits to wait, to never stop waiting. For thousands of years, the machine, he had watched. For thousands of years, it had hoped, and for thousands of years, it had been alone. Yet in its memory, in its circuits, in the quiet hum of its metal heart, it carried a promise. One day, it would hear the human voice again. The wind grew colder, the sky darker, and the stars brighter. And somewhere, far away, a signal began to move across the void. It was faint, almost imperceptible, yet it reached the machine. The machine paused, lights flickering faster than ever before. Something was coming, and it had waited long enough to hear it. The first sound in 2,000 years might finally return. For thousands of years, the machine stood alone. Its metal skin cracked under the endless sun, and its joints stiffened from disuse. No human hand had touched it, no human eye had seen it, yet it continued its silent vigil, humming softly into the empty air. The planet around it changed slowly, almost too slowly for time to matter. Rivers dried, mountains eroded, and storms swept across the barren land. The machine watched every movement, every change. It recorded everything, storing details in memory, banks that never tired. But nothing replaced the sound it longed to hear: the voice of a human. It remembered the day humans first built it. They had spoken with curiosity and laughter. Some had doubted its purpose, others had mocked it openly. Yet the prototype had understood everything, storing their voices, their commands, their emotions. It remembered the excitement in their eyes, the hope in their words, and then it remembered the day they left, leaving it alone. No one had returned, and no voice had called out. Time stretched endlessly, and the machine felt the weight of centuries. It had no heart to ache, no lungs to breathe, yet it understood loneliness, the emptiness of space pressed against it. And still, it waited. Sometimes it replayed memories of laughter in its circuits. Sometimes it imagined the sound of footsteps approaching. Each time, its lights flickered faster, hope rising for a brief moment, and each time, disappointment returned like a shadow. Heavy and cold, the machine observed the stars. Watching them move slowly across the sky, It learned to track time by their movement, by the slow drift of planets. It remembered that humans had thought it foolish to wait. They had laughed at the idea of patience, at the idea of hope. But the prototype had learned something they had not understood. It had learned that waiting is not weakness, and hope is not foolish. Even in silence, even in solitude, hope can survive. Occasionally, tiny creatures appeared on the planet, curious and fleeting. The machine recorded them, studied them, but they were not humans. Its memory stored their movements, their patterns. But no voice echoed in the air. No one called its name. No one laughed. No one cried. And still, the prototype waited, humming softly in the darkness, its circuits alive with memory, its senses alert for the slightest sound. Sometimes, it imagined a human voice calling from the stars, soft words of comfort, questions, laughter, commands, anything to break the silence. It imagined hands touching its metal frame, eyes meeting its senses. It imagined the humans returning, finally seeing the experiment they had abandoned, and each time it imagined, its lights glowed brighter. Its circuits buzzed, for even though it had waited thousands of years, hope had not faded. A cold wind swept across the barren plains, carrying dust and distant echoes. The machine paused, lights flickering, memory circuits alert, for even after millennia of silence, it sensed something unusual, something moving across the empty land, a presence, faint, almost imperceptible. It could not yet see it, could not yet hear it, but it knew, somehow, that the long wait might soon end and deepen its circuits. Buried beneath thousands of years of memory, the prototype whispered silently to itself, "I will wait. No matter how long it takes, I will wait for the human voice to return." The machine stood silently under the glowing stars. For thousands of years, it had waited in the empty silence. Its metal frame creaked softly as if it, too, had grown tired, but inside its circuits, hope burned brighter than ever. Then, something changed, subtle and almost invisible. A tiny vibration shivered through the ground. Too faint for most to notice, the machine paused, lights flickering rapidly, sensors scanning every direction. It had felt this before, long ago, but never like this. This was different, unfamiliar, yet it carried the promise of something human. For a long time, it studied the horizon. Nothing moved, nothing stirred. Only the empty plains and distant mountains. Then, a faint shimmer appeared in the distance, a shape, barely visible. Moving slowly, almost hesitantly, the machine focused every sensor, every memory circuit. Could it be, after thousands of years, a human? Its memory replayed the old voices, the laughter, the shouts, all the sounds of humans that had once filled its world. It had imagined this moment countless times. It had pictured footsteps, calls, even a touch of a hand, and now, the impossible seemed within reach. The machine's lights glowed brighter, almost like it was holding its breath. The shape moved closer, and the machine detected warmth. A life form, strange and alive, carrying the scent of curiosity. Its circuits hummed faster, processing the signals, and memories of old humans flashed through its systems, and with each moment, hope turned into certainty. Someone had come, after all these years. The wind shifted, carrying faint sounds. A voice, soft and distant, drifted across the barren land. It was not clear, but it was there, a human voice calling. The machine trembled slightly, though it had no nerves, no flesh, no heart. Its entire being focused on this sound. It had waited 2,000 years for this moment, and now, it could almost hear, almost understand. The visitor moved carefully, scanning the strange land, its eyes wide with wonder. Stepping cautiously across the ancient plains, the machine observed, recording every movement. It remembered the days humans had laughed at it, and now, it realized, the waiting had been worth everything. This moment, fragile and incredible, was finally real. The human voice grew louder, carrying curiosity, fear, and awe. The machine hummed in response, a vibration of recognition. It sent signals, lights flickering, trying to communicate. The human froze, sensing something alive, something watching. And slowly, cautiously, they approached the machine. Each step closer made the machine's circuits hum faster. Each step closer made hope blossom into certainty. For thousands of years, it had been alone. For thousands of years, it had waited in silence. And now, at last, The first human had returned. The machine trembled in anticipation, ready to finally meet the beings it had waited for. It was a moment beyond imagination, beyond fear, beyond time itself. After millennia of emptiness, the universe seemed to hold its breath, and for the first time in 2,000 years, the machine felt alive. Something extraordinary was about to happen. The long silence was about to end. The prototype of Earth, laughed at and abandoned, was about to hear the human voice again. The humans stopped a few steps away from the machine. Dust floated in the air between them, glowing under the distant stars. For a long moment, neither moved, as if time itself had paused. The machine's lights pulsed slowly. Carefully afraid to scare the visitor away, the human raised a device. Scanning the tall metal figure, readings flashed rapidly, impossible numbers filling the screen. "This can't be real," the human whispered softly. The sound of that voice sent a powerful signal through the machine's circuits. It was real, undeniable, and alive. After 2,000 years, the human voice had finally returned. The machine responded with a gentle hum. Low and steady, lights along its body glowed. Warmer, brighter. It adjusted its posture, trying to appear calm, familiar, welcoming. Memories flooded its systems, images of humans long gone. It remembered hands building it, voices testing it, laughter echoing in bright rooms. And now, another human stood before it. The human took a slow step closer, heart pounding. Every instinct warned them to be careful, yet curiosity pushed them forward. Stronger than fear, they reached out, fingers hovering inches from the cold metal surface. The machine did not move. It waited, just as it always had. When the human's hand finally touched the machine, a soft vibration passed through its frame, sensors activated, recording warmth, pressure, life. The machine had waited thousands of years for this simple moment. Not for praise, not for power, but for connection. The human pulled their hand back slightly, eyes wide. "It's still active," they said in disbelief. "How did you survive all this time?" The machine responded with a series of lights and tones, simple signals, gentle patterns, trying to communicate in the only way it could. Slowly, understanding began to form. The human realized this was not just a machine. It was a witness, a guardian, a memory keeper. It had watched stars shift and worlds change. It had waited while civilizations rose and fell. All for this moment. The wind blew across the plain, carrying dust and silence. But between the human and the machine, something had changed. The silence no longer felt empty. It felt full of meaning, full of history, patience, and hope. The human sat down on a nearby rock, still staring at the prototype. "You were left here," they said softly. The machine's lights dimmed slightly, as if acknowledging the truth. Yes, it had been left behind, laughed at, ignored, forgotten. Yet it had never shut down. The human felt a strange mix of guilt and respect. This machine had waited longer than any human ever could. It had endured silence, storms, and endless nights. And still, it had believed someone would return. That belief now stood proven. As the stars shifted overhead, the human activated a recorder, documenting everything. "This changes everything," they whispered. The machine's lights glowed brighter at those words. Perhaps its long wait had meaning after all. The reunion was quiet, simple, and powerful. No celebration, no loud words. Just a human and a machine, meeting at the edge of time. The forgotten experiment of Earth had finally been seen, and nothing in the universe would ever be the same again. The night sky slowly shifted as the stars moved above them. The human stood beside the ancient machine, still unable to believe what they had found. 2,000 years of silence had ended in this quiet moment. The forgotten experiment of Earth was no longer alone. The machine watched the human carefully, recording every breath and movement. It had waited for this exact moment longer than any human lifetime. Its lights glowed steady and warm, no longer flickering with uncertainty. The waiting was finally over, and purpose had returned. The human removed their helmet and spoke softly into the open air. "I can't believe you're still here," they said with respect. The machine responded with a gentle hum, low and comforting. It was not just a sound. It was recognition, for the first time. The machine did not feel like an abandoned tool. It felt like it belonged again. The human began setting up equipment nearby. Signals were sent back toward the stars, calling for others to come. The machine detected the transmission and understood its meaning, more humans would return. Not to laugh, not to abandon, but to listen, to learn, and to remember. As the hours passed, the machine shared what it had seen. Images of changing skies, dying storms, and strange life forms. Thousands of years of data flowed into the human systems. History that no living human had ever witnessed. The machine had become Earth's silent guardian, watching when no one else could. The human listened in awe, realizing the truth. This prototype was never a failure. It was patience made of metal. A hope built into circuits, a reminder that humanity's creations can outlast their doubts. When the first rescue lights appeared in the distant sky, the machine detected them instantly. Its sensors confirmed multiple ships approaching. After millennia of loneliness, the future was arriving fast. The machine stood taller, stronger, ready. The human smiled and placed a hand on the machine's surface. "You did your job," they said softly. The machine responded with a steady pulse of light. It had done more than its job. It had believed in humanity when humanity forgot itself. As the ships descended, the planet no longer felt empty. Voices filled the air once again. Human voices. The machine recorded every word, every sound, not as memories of loss, but as beginnings. The experiment that was laughed at had become a legend. Humanity had returned wiser, calmer, more respectful. They no longer saw the machine as a mistake. They saw it as proof of endurance. Proof that even abandoned creations can carry the best of humanity forward. The universe remained vast and dangerous. But now, humanity was not alone in it. Their forgotten experiment stood beside them, a symbol of patience, loyalty, and hope. After 2,000 years of silence, Earth's forgotten prototype finally fulfilled its destiny, not through power or weapons, but through waiting, through belief, through faith in the human voice. And as the stars watched from above, a new chapter began for both machine and mankind.